Hey, welcome back. Lesson 34 as we advance this scene and John starts to fight back. Let's get started. Alright, well, let's get started with this. We're going to go ahead and click on John and take him to the face puppet. We're going to take him to the face puppet. And I'll usually use the default settings and poke around through it, find out, what facial features are going to look the best for the scene. And you just kind of have to do your due diligence and figure out what works for your project. We'll go in and add a little facial expressions here to John. Figure out how we're going to turn his head and have him look at what's going on there with the birds. So I'll scoot this into a little higher speed here as I poke around and look. I'll usually go ahead and load up the timeline with John so I can have his information open and kind of see what's happening as I'm working. So I like to do that. Usually the transform track and the motion track are the two things I'm most interested in, and the face track as well when you're trying to track down his voice clips and face puppetry and things like that are going to be in the face track. So I'm going to use keys here. I'll add a key on the transform track to create a beginning point before I start making a move to John, and that way it won't record it all the way back to the beginning of the timeline, which is what it'll do by default if you don't actually set a beginning key. And then now I'm free to move the timeline forward a few clicks and add any kind of facial feature or anything I want. In here you'll find the list of cameras, and you can open these simultaneously along with your actor so that you can see its transformation, any links, and the lens perspective. So anytime you make any changes when you're on a camera, those changes are going to record down here in the camera track. And there'll be a separate camera track for each camera that you have. And then when you scroll up and you're just looking at John's tracks, he'll also have his own transform track. And so there could be two things going on at the same time when you're trying to figure out what you might have done, or you're trying to backtrack. You're always going to want to check out what camera you're on to see if there's changes recorded there, and also to look at the transformation track on the actual actor. Okay, so here we've just done a simple perspective move. Increase the perspective so that it would give the appearance of zooming in, and did that for 10 frames. So Now I'm going to poke around here and do some previews, but I am going to speed this up just a little bit, so here we go. So yeah, so I just go through and preview the different settings, the different presets, and once I kind of see what I can do, I go ahead and hit the record screen, and away we go. So I think one of the really cool things about Cartoon Animator is essentially I can record anything here, him looking up and changing his face, and then go back. I can go back onto that actor and change each individual frame of what his look actually is, and so you have to kind of like lay the track, and then you can go back and play with it and make it the way you want it to be. I like the face puppet because you can get some really great expressions, and they're built into Cartoon Animator, so each character is going to have its own features, and you can really manipulate the kind of expressions in that you want to see. And if you can't get something with the face puppet, then you can go in and do it Gary Pie style, which is to do frame by frame. Every frame is exactly the way he wants it to look, which is how you really get that absolute perfection. And he's a master at that. Okay, so yeah, we'll go ahead and open up the 2D motion key editor. I'd like to start the process of John rotating his hip. Um, Basically, the goal is to have him observe birds who are messing with his solar panel, and so then he's going to have to turn upwards with his wand in the water. And so we'll start with the hip, rotating it. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to look for where I can set a beginning key. Uh, so there's always a transform track for um, the part, and you want to look for it and make sure that you're setting beginning keys when you start moving things with the 2D motion key editor. As long as you have a beginning and an end, then it'll allow you to make any movements that you want, any keyframe movement that you want without messing up anything else that you've already done. So, and then you'll see that there's a full body and a select part before you set that key. Um, so sometimes I mess that up and I ask it to do more than I wanted. And so, but that's where you can actually set the key for the entire body so that it starts at 0, on that frame, or you just say, hey, I just want this one arm to be the only thing moving, or the only thing that I wanted to set a key on. So, okay. So I can only get so far, swiveling the hip, and I'm trying to balance where he goes out of frame. But I'm always going to be coming in with different camera shots and that. But I want to make sure that he's still in the scene when I zoom in. So making sure he doesn't lean back too far. And then all the rest of the changes are going to have to happen with his arms, where we'll move the parts one by one until we get things angled up like he's pointing up at that solar panel. So I'm going to speed this up. It takes quite a while to do, and I hope you don't mind that I uh, don't show every second. I mean, you get to see it, but I'm just endlessly going through and moving the parts one step at a time till I iron it out. So um, otherwise, I think it's pretty self-explanatory what I'm trying to do here. I'll try to slow down when we hit some parts that I think are really necessary to explain. Here we go. So here you can see I'm just advancing one frame at a time and then adjusting the arm. I'll go through this process a couple times. Usually I'll go ahead and when I want it to be really tight or tighter, I'll take it up to F11 key and so I can see it full screen, and then you can get the alignments better. And dial in that arm, and then we'll go in and dial in the other wrist now. So you see there I just made this change by advancing in the timeline and moving his arm. And it doesn't get it perfectly, but it kind of helped a little bit with saving me just a little bit of time doing the other arm frame by frame. But I still go in frame by frame and make sure that each joint is, as it's moving, looks proportionate. And you're always working with what you got. The hands are already drawn onto the wand at a precise angle for him, pressure washing, aiming down at the ground. So I'm trying to make this work without actually going and changing the angles and all that on the wand. If it doesn't dial out well enough, though, then of course I'd have to go into Krita and do another wand with the wrist at the correct angle for him holding it up in the air. And then he wouldn't have to have his arms quite so convoluted like they are in this scene. I'm trying to make it work here, so see how this plays. Okay, I noticed a bit of an anomaly here. It looks like John's eyes have closed and don't want to open anymore using the face puppet. And so I'm going to have to go into the timeline and just simply delete the last face puppet clip and then re-record it. It should fix the problem. Okay, and in the timeline under John, when he's highlighted, you can open up his face clip. As you can see, they're highlighted in red in the timeline. And there's the puppet clip there I have highlighted. And I'm able to just highlight the one I want to delete. And if it turns out that I actually didn't want to get rid of that after I delete it, then all I have to do is hit the undo key. So it gives me the option. So there's his eyes open, and so now I just need to keep moving on. Simple as that. So we'll just keep working through the details here, and doing the face puppet, and getting the look the way I want it. So we'll kind of scoot through this. Get that final expression here. Want him to kind of look disgusted too. He looks up, sees what's going on. He's pretty disgusted about the whole thing. And before he reacts and decides to fight back. Right, here we go. Hit the space bar and record it now after practicing. And then right where I want to stop, I let the space bar, hit the space bar to end the recording, so it happens pretty fast here. And then I can do another preset and keep working through the emotions. So here we go, hit the space bar, recording, working the mouse. You can click the mouse in order to make his eyes blink. Oftentimes forget to do that. But you can always go back and add eye blinks anywhere that you feel it's appropriate. So you can see I'm just laying little tracks at a time down in the timeline, which if I don't like what I see when I play it back, I just delete and re-record it. So super simple here. And I'm just experimenting a little bit with what happens if I want to just turn the mouth off. And ultimately, I'm not getting the facial expression that I'm looking for here in the face puppet, and so I want to have something a little more specific. So I'm trying different characters up here in the top row, see if any of those facial expressions please me. And then if all else fails, I'm going to take John to the sprite editor where he has mouth sprites, and I can get an exact facial expression or smile or something that I'm looking for in that toolkit. So you use a combination of the tools to get what you're looking for. Okay, so we got basically him just kind of bobbing his head a little bit as he's working the water. Is trying to get that effect, and then I can just simply duplicate part of this. I'm going to go ahead and break this clip so that I just have a little piece of him bobbing the head here, and I'll highlight it now, and now I'm going to drag the clip, and it's going to just duplicate a bunch of copies of that little section. So now he's just continues to kind of bob his head a little bit while he's working the water. And you can do that with any puppet clip. You face clip, puppet clip, you can duplicate them. So if you have something that you really like that you created, you can just duplicate it, and you can save it as a collect clip as well, so that you can have it stored in the actor's file. So when you're using the actor, all you got to do is right click and open up their action menu and play that clip. Okay, so here I'm now in the sprite editor. I'm going to go ahead and look for just the right mouth that I want. And while he's kind of fighting the scene, he'll have a more of a determined mouth look, and look for just the right expression here. Alright, well, we're gonna now select this water, and we'll start working through the process of each frame by frame. We're going to need to move that water stream to meet the pressure washing wand here, and we'll have to make it adjust the curve of the water as well as it goes frame by frame, and he'll be moving his hip back and raising, so I have to play with it a little bit to get just exactly what looks right. And so here I'm going to change the angle of it a little bit, start doing that. So the little plus sign allows me to move left, right, all around by grabbing it, holding down the mouse and just dragging it when I have that. But when I move it just outside of the line there, you'll see I get the little half circle, and that allows me to rotate the image here, the water stream image. So I'm doing a bit of both. I'm moving it and rotating it at the same time here. Here's the rotation, here's the drag. And so try to keep it, I guess, like a bit of a curve as it comes out of the gun, but so each time I'm hitting the F11 key so that I can have the closest view, and it becomes important mostly when you're going to do a close-up scene, then it's really going to show. But if you're working with the camera really close up and you find that something does show, you can still go back in and edit these each frame to make the water jet be exactly where it's supposed to be. So it's a process, and the further away you are in a zoom, the less important it is that it's absolutely spot on. Try to get it as good as possible here. Looks like I'm getting a little hourglassing, which a lot of times happens when I'm using the screen recorder. It drags down the resources a little bit and makes the settings a little clunkier. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just speed the motion up here a little bit, and I think we've kind of seen this, and well, you can watch it just go a little faster here. Okay, so I think the next step is we're going to move into the cameras and start working on this scene from a camera perspective. As you can see, once his water jet is completely up in the air and visible, then the water becomes unrealistic. It doesn't drop down to the ground. And so with the magic cameras, we're able to use zoom and the perspective of seeing his water stream coming up and all of that, and then flash forward to the solar panel where the water could continue to hit the panel, and you don't actually ever see the water jet just suspended in midair like that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'll usually go ahead and just create a new camera. Even if I'm working with preview and I like that view, I just go ahead and create a camera view for it then, so I can continue it. So that's what I've got right there. And I'll go ahead and play with the cameras for a while here. And this is all just a matter of personal preference. You can try different things until you get the combo that you like. It's the hard part about showing myself working is that I'm not a computer and I don't always have the exact process in my mind of how I want everything to play out. And maybe some people are able to create by planning their whole scene, every single thing they want to visualize. But I also am working within my skill level on what I think I can pull off and make happen. So, and my time. So it's all a balance here. As I learn this process and learn to get better and become a better animator, would expect my work to improve and be able to do different things, figure out different things. So you really have a lot of choices, which is kind of can be a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. As you make, as you're highlighted on any camera and you make any changes, it's recording that into the camera on the timeline, and so you have to be aware of what you're trying to do and not take something so far that you can't back out. Here I'm just playing with perspective to get a cool looking zoom that won't last very long in the camera scene itself. And like I said, a lot of times I'm just sitting here going back and forth, looking and seeing what's possible, looking and seeing uh, whether or not I like this perspective or not. And then sometimes when I don't like it, it can take a minute or two to back out. And so I think that's the part I was just talking about, of not having everything so pre-planned for a lesson, that I'm trying to show you what I do without boring the heck out of you with what I do. So, and some of these really complicated scenes, I don't know if this is the best use of YouTube um, for watching the step by step, but I'm hoping that some of you getting a good value of actually being able to watch how I'll process through it, and then also seeing how you would process it and make it work for your own. Okay, so I'm in a camera view, which allows me then to go up on that top bar. I'm on camera 0, and you'll see that little plus sign is highlighted up on the top bar. And with that, I'm able to scroll all around the scene. And I've advanced myself in the timeline, so Once I do decide on what I want it to look like, then I can go ahead and stop right there and scroll back and see the result of this zoom. Okay, so you can see that the water jet and the red line there on the bottom in the scene, the water jet is now not showing that it's up in midair, because when you're seeing this on the F11 view, you're only seeing the close-up. Okay, so I'm just working out how I'm going to be able to make that water jet look realistic for as long as possible before it doesn't. And then before it doesn't, I'm already zooming off to another part of the scene, the birds, the poop on the solar panel, anything like that too, so that I create the illusion that the water is actually would of course be dropping to the ground. So I didn't create this water scene, and it was designed maybe to flow out a pipe or something like that. So I won't be able to go and probably redraw it to flow all the way to the ground. Would love to. Okay, hope any of that makes sense here. I'm going to speed this up a bit though, and we'll just keep going through the process. I'll try to stop when I think it's necessary. Okay, so this is a work in progress. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.